In this video, I'll be talking about the final act of The Merchant of Venice, which is Act 5, and it's just one scene, okay? And this scene takes place at Portia's house. Now, I'm sure you remember that Jessica and Lorenzo, the newlyweds, obviously couldn't go back to Venice, so they stayed as housekeepers while Portia and Nerissa went to Venice to do the court scene. And it's quite a nice scene at the beginning because it's nighttime and they have to remember in Shakespeare's time, they didn't have the same kind of theatre effects that they had that we have nowadays. So when Jessica says something like, in such a night, yeah, so the audience would basically just have to imagine that it was nighttime. Okay. And they're kind of talking about their love and comparing it to the beautiful evening, and it's kind of setting up the scene for this happy ending that we have at the end of The Merchant of Venice. Okay. For example, here London says, in such a night did Jessica steal from the wealthy Jew. Yeah. Like she ran away from the wealthy Jew. And with unthrift love did from Venice as far as Belmont. So Belmont is where Portia lives, right? So she kind of like escaped all the way from Venice. So it's, in my opinion, it's kind of talking about the power of love and how, love can make you do things that seem extreme, running away from your father and going to a different city and these kind of things that, he's kind of comparing, how, or maybe making a comment on how extreme Jessica's actions were. And then Jessica responds, he said, in such a night did young Lorenzo swear he loved her well, stealing her soul with many vows of faith, and never a true one, but not one vow was true. Okay, so it's like, oh yes, how did young Lorenzo say? It's like they're talking to each other in the third person, which is a bit strange. And he said, in such a night did pretty Jessica, like a little shrew, like in a bad mood, basically slander her love, and he forgave it her, like I said, forgave her for doing this thing, slander her love, like say bad things, saying that this type of stuff, saying the vows aren't true. I would outnight you did nobody come, but hark, I hear the footing of a man, I viene alguien. So they're, I mean, it's got a kind of quite a pretty scene. They're kind of they're kind of play arguing, and then the messenger comes along, okay, and says that Portia and Nerissa are on the way back, and Lancelot the clown says Bassiano and Gratiano are also on the way back. Now, obviously, it's important that Portia and Nerissa arrive back first, because if Bassiano and Gratiano arrive and their wives are not there, they're like, hey, where have you been? What's been going on, right? And they instruct the servants not to say anything. Don't mention that we were away, because we went to the convent, right? Obviously, they didn't actually go to the convent. They were in Venice. So he says, don't tell them about the fact that we were away. It's a secret, because if they do say something like, oh, you were away, what's that situation, right? And then Antonio also arrives, from Venice, because he's just been kind of saved by Portia, dressed as a man. And then Nerissa and Gratiano argue about the lost ring. Now, this is kind of quite a funny moment in the play, because we know at this point that Nerissa knew exactly what happened with the ring, because it was her that took the ring, right? So it says, enter Portia and Nerissa. And where's the section with Gratiano? Lorenzo, Portia. And so Bassiano, Portia. I want to find Nerissa and Gratiano. Here we go. So, are you guys, so Gratiano talking to Nerissa. By yonder moon, I swear, do me wrong in faith. I gave it to the judge's clerk. Which is true. He did give it to what he thought was the judge's clerk, which was Nerissa, right? Where he would gelt that I had it for my part. Since you do take it, love, so much at heart, no? Rima bonito eso, no? So it's like you're getting so kind of upset about it. Why are you getting so angry about such a small detail? And then Portia, ¿a poco ya están peleando, no? And Graciano says, about a hoop of gold. It's just a gold ring, and then it's just it's just an inanimate object. It's nothing important, and obviously that type of thing kind of offends Nerissa. It's like, oh, it's just a small thing, was it? Well, for me, it had sentimental value, right? A paltry ring that she gave me, whose posse was for all the world like Cutler's pottery upon a knife. Love me and not leave me. So it's like Cutler's poetry. Sorry. It's like saying, oh, it had this like kind of cheap poetry on it. Oh, it was horrible, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously that's going to offend Nerissa. Oh, you talk of its value. It's like, oh, o sea, para ti solo es el valor económico del anillo que importa. No tiene ningún valor sentimental. No? You swore to me when I did give it to you that you would wear it till the hour of our death. Yeah? Me juraste que no te lo ibas a quitar hasta la muerte. And that I should lie with you in your grave, ¿no? Y que nos íbamos a estar en la misma tumba, ¿no? Though not for me, yet your vehement oaths, o sea, no, tus oaths, tus votos, tus promesas no sirven para nada. You should have been respective and have kept it, yeah, no? Le hubieras dicho que no. But I mean, it's kind of like a funny scene because Nerissa knows exactly what happened to the ring, and so does the audience, right? You gave it to a judge's clerk, o sea, así como venía disfrazada yo. No, God's my judge. The clerk will never wear hair on the face that had it, right? So it's like, I'm never going to have a beard, basically. He will, and if he lived to be a man, and then it's like, if a woman lived to be a man, it's like saying, ay, claro que le diste a otra mujer el anillo, blah, blah, blah. If a woman lives to be a man, it's like, yeah, of course, o sea, ando viste ahí de infiel, basically. That's what she's kind of accusing him of. And then, but she knows he's just playing because she's got the ring herself. Now, by this hand, I give it to the youth, a kind boy, a little scrub boy, no higher than thyself, o sea, ni siquiera más alto que tú. The judge's clerk, ¿no? El asistente del juez, que era Portia, obviamente. A prating boy that begged it as if he, por favor, dámelo, pero era Nerissa pidiendo el anillo. I could not, for my heart, deny it him. No podía negarlo. And then Portia says, you were to blame. I must be playing with you to part so slightly. O sea, ¿cómo le diste, cómo regalaste algo que te regalaron a ti y de parte de tu esposa, ¿no? Y no te costó nada, fue slightly. A thing stuck with your oaths, pero tú habías prometido. Yeah, so, the Portia and Nerissa in this scene are kind of like playing. They know exactly what happened. So they're kind of making them suffer in a way. And then Bassanio, quien hizo lo mismo, también regaló el anillo, pero lo regaló a Portia, ¿no? Pero pensando que Portia era el juez, ¿no? El abogado, all right? So aside, why I were best to cut my finger, mejor me corto el dedo y digo que así perdí el anillo, porque viendo lo que Nerissa le está haciendo como que de emoción a Gratiano, dice, pues a mí ahorita me va a tocar lo mismo cuando vea que no tengo el anillo que Portia me dio. All right, so anyway, it's kind of like a funny scene in where they're kind of joking about that. And then Gratiano, el muy amigo, grasses on Bassanio. Y dice, y el de Bassanio también lo perdió, ¿no? Como que quitando la atención de él, ¿no? My Lord Bassanio gave his ring away onto the judge, que era Portia, and indeed deserved it too. And the boy, his clerk, that took some pains in writing, he begged mine, and neither man nor master would take aught but the 2 rings. Yeah? No aceptaba nada. Yeah? So Gratiano, el muy amigo, dice, y también Bassanio hizo lo mismo, ¿eh? No me vayan a decir, no me vayan a regañar a mí nada más. Y luego Portia empieza contra Bassanio, ¿no? What ring gave you, my lord? Not that, I hope, which you received. O sea, ¿qué anillo regalaste? No me vayas a decir que fue el que yo te di. If I could add a lie unto a fault, I would deny it. But you see my finger. O sea, no te puedo esconder nada. Ves mi dedo. Hath not the ring upon it. No tiene ningún anillo, ¿no? Portia, Even so void is your false heart of truth. ¿A poco sí, no? Y está como que actuando muy sorprendida. Pues, ¿cuál sorprendida? Las dos sabían, ¿no? Ajá. Until I see the ring, ¿eh? I will never come in your bed. O sea, nunca vamos a volver a hacer nada sexual hasta que vuelva a ver ese anillo, ¿no? No hay in yours. Y Nerys le dice, y tampoco yo, ¿eh? Que te quede claro, ¿no? Vas por ese anillo ahorita. And then what happens? Well, basically, they get the rings out, yeah? And then Antonio says, the rings were lost. Dice Antonio, a ver, sí se perdieron los anillos, pero fue por mi culpa, ¿no? De una manera muy indirecta, lo cual es cierto, ¿no? Y todo jijiji, jajaja, cuando Portia saca el anillo que supuestamente había regalado, pues aquí está, y pues así le revelan que no, pues fuimos nosotras las que estuvimos en la corte, nos disfrazamos y luego Antonia se entera, les agradece, jijiji, jajaja. Y resulta que los barcos de Antonio no se perdieron, siempre sí estaban bien. Ajá. Entonces, pues las dos parejas, bueno, las tres parejas, que es Lorenzo y Jessica, pues estaban ahí en el Belmont, muy felices. Um, Jessica y Lorenzo, perdón, Bassiano, Amposia, pues vivieron felices para siempre ya. Y lo mismo con Nerissa y Gratiano, ¿no? Después de revelar que ellos fueron y jijiji, jaja, y nosotros creyendo que ustedes éramos hombres y, ay, pero ¿cómo es posible que regalaste mi anillo? Yo te lo di con mucho cariño, con mucho afecto, ¿ya? Entonces, they reveal the secret, ¿no? Y resulta que los barcos de Antonio no estaban perdidos, y le da el contrato de Shylock, que firmó Shylock, a Lorenzo, que es cuando me muera, tengo que dejar todo a Lorenzo, que es pues el esposo de su hija, ¿no? Y pues obviamente Shylock firmó eso contra su voluntad porque pues realmente no le quedaba de otra. Y una última pregunta que me gustaría debatir la próxima clase, pues económicamente, pues Antonio ya está bien, pero pues ¿qué hay de él? ¿No? O sea, él es el único que pues queda o sea, no en la ruina económicamente, pero quizás emocionalmente. O él va a estar feliz de estar viendo a Bassanio contento con Porsche, o pues qué hay de él, ¿no? O sea, pareciera pues un final muy feliz, pero ¿qué pasa con el cuate de Antonio? All right, so think about that and we can discuss it next class.